Parents, when you realize your child has a fever, your instinct is to probably do what most people do, which is reach for a fever-reducing medication to try to make them feel more comfortable. But what if that is doing more harm than good? Did you know that those medications that bring the fever down are often prolonging the illness in many of the cases? This elevated body temperature is not an enemy to be fought, but it is an intelligent healing mechanism orchestrated by your child's brain, by their nervous system, and it's helping to actively fight that infection, supercharging the rest of their immune system and really doing an important job. So in most of the cases, when you fight to bring down a fever, you're really fighting for the wrong team. So let's get into this. How do we handle fevers? How should you be thinking about this as a parent? Is there ever a time where you do need to be concerned with it, or are fevers always a good thing? Let's understand really what's at the root of this and how this is working, because the traditional system, they don't really seem to mind pumping you full of more antibiotics and more medications to suppress that. But in the reality, you're prolonging the initial challenge, but in the long term, you're doing more harm than good, because you're not allowing that child's immune defense in their internal defense system to build up the strength to be able to fight stuff off in the future. So it's going to affect not just how they handle this illness, but the future trajectory of their immune system. Is it going to be strong and adaptable and able to fight stuff off in the future, or suppressed and unable to keep them healthy? So I just had a recent conversation with my kids. We were literally reading a kid's book about the body, and they had, I think they were taking a temperature on one of the pages, and they brought up something about fevers. And so we got into it. And the way I explained it to them was that fevers don't make you sick. The fever shows up when you are sick. So the fever itself is not the problem. It is just a symptom of your body working hard to fight against this. So when you have some sort of bacteria or virus invading, it is your immune cells that release these pyrogens that are what raises your core body temperature. So it is your own immune system that is elevating the temperature. It's not the bacteria and the viruses. It's your body's response to those invaders. So this is very different than something like a heat stroke where you're overheating, where it's a negative thing. When you have a fever with an infection, it is a sign that your nervous system is properly regulating, right? Your immune system, your neurology is all in sync. When that body temperature goes up, when your core temperature raises, it massively impacts and negatively affects the bacteria, the virus, whatever that bad guy is, while at the same time boosting the white blood cells' ability to replicate, their ability to fight things off and really get the upper hand. So when you're bringing that fever down, you're literally fighting for the wrong team. Now, when you hear me say that a fever is not a bad thing and we want to really encourage this, you're going to maybe hear it the wrong way, right? We don't want kids having a fever all the time, right? It's not a good thing. It's not a badge of honor if your kid has a fever for a month straight. It is a healthy response when they get an infection to have a strong fever, to kick out the invader, and then to reset back to normal. But it's not something we want happening on a regular basis, right? Our kids should be healthy and crushing it most of the time. If a couple times a year they've got to fight something off and their body temp spikes and they have a little fever, no big deal. But if it's month after month that they're dealing with this, and it's weeks that it's prolonged instead of a quick fighting it off and kicking the sick, that's the scenario that is a sign of a dysregulated and really a weak, suppressed immune system. So don't hear this the wrong way, right? We don't want a fever all the time. We just don't want to suppress it when your body does activate it. Now, what about times when we are concerned, right? When do you want to take action? There are some guidelines here, but I do want to get into more of the just other signs and other indicators to look at. The general guidelines would be if you've got a little one, if you've got a fresh baby, an infant that's under 3 months, you really don't want a fever ever, right? There's no fever that we're really okay with or tolerating because they have different immune mechanisms. They're not able to regulate in the same way yet. At that point, you want to have skin-to-skin contact because mom or dad, you're going to be able to regulate their body temperature, and you want to reach out to your pediatrician. You want to seek some sort of medical help. 3 to 6 months, a little bit more of a gray area, right? Anything up to 102, really 102.2, it's okay. We can live with that. It gets above that, now we have some concerns. We want to seek out medical attention. And once you get past 6 months, if it's over 102.2 for multiple days in a row, and they have some other signs that are concerning, that's when we are going to seek out attention. So a fever of 100, 101, in that lower range, we're not really ever concerned about creating problems once you're past that 6-month window. What is some of the indicators? What are some of the indicators that we do take action on a little bit more quickly? Something like, say you also have a really bad headache or some neck stiffness with that. You've got difficulty breathing, your hydration is a struggle, they're dealing with a rash, especially lethargy, like they're really just lethargic. Those are all signs that we would have concerns and want to take action and not just let the body do its thing. The lethargy can be tricky though, because when your kid is sick, when they're fighting something off, they're gonna be run down. They're gonna be tired. They're gonna wanna just lay around or snuggle and nurse. But that isn't a sign of lethargy. When I say lethargic, what I'm saying is they're non-responsive. You can't get them to interact. They're not really in connection with you. That's when, if you have any of that gut instinct that something's off, absolutely take action and do something about it. But feeling run down, wanting to rest, wanting to sleep for a busy, high energy kiddo, that's a good response. That's what their body should be doing when they're kicking it off. So how do you support a fever? How do you support that strong immune system response? One, you gotta stay hydrated, right? That is a big concern when you're feeling sick, when you have a fever, is dehydration. So we've gotta stay hydrated, especially adding electrolytes in can be a huge help. And that could be salt, sodium, potassium, magnesium, adding in vitamin C. Like, we love using powdered vitamin C. That's a great way to boost and support healing as well. What I don't want to do in those sort of situations is maybe the Gatorades, the ones that are going to have more sweeteners. Artificial colors are an absolute no. Anything with a bunch of sugar, that's not what we need right now. That's going to suppress the immune system further. So stay away from those. But there's a lot of really good electrolyte options, or you can literally just put some salt in orange juice diluted with water, right? Doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to come in a fancy packet or anything. So want to stay hydrated. Give them a healing environment, right? Make sure your kid has a place they can rest. Make sure they can take it easy. You're not just trying to like push the limits and still drag them to all their normal activities. Try to slow down. Let their body have the time and the space to heal. We got to get adjusted, right? That is another huge one that we see. Kids dealing with chronic immune struggles, like maybe the one we talked about earlier, that they do see this show up month after month after month, and they really struggle to kick this sick. You probably are missing the neurological piece of it, and that's something that we see really support strong healing and adaptability. So if you're looking for providers who are more aligned with your instinct, right? Maybe you are a more holistic parent and you hate the idea of suppressing the fever. You hate the idea of just giving them another medication or an antibiotic. We're your people, right? We are here for you. We're going to support you along that journey and do whatever we can through the nervous system, through chiropractic, and through giving you the resources and the tools to help your family be well. Send us any questions, any clarification you want, or reach out to the team if you need to set up that scan for your child or your family, and we can't wait to meet you soon and help your family thrive.